2,000 years ago in a desert land, there was a huge city called Shinar. In this city, all the people spoke the same language and were all descendants of Noah after the great flood. And they were all living in peace until one day they had an idea. They wanted to build a tower that reached up into the heavens, a tower that would make them famous for all eternity. So they started gathering materials, cutting down trees and making bricks out of the clay and mud that surrounded them. And day by day, year by year, the tower grew taller and taller. Soon it was many stories high, with windows that looked like stars, reflecting the sun and moon and giving light to the whole city. And every time they finished a floor, they would celebrate with music and dancing. They made beautiful songs about the tower and how great it was. The people were very proud of their accomplishment, and they felt like nothing could stop them now. But deep down inside, some people were afraid because they knew that if the tower reached up into heaven, then God would become angry. One man told his friend, "Hey, look at what we're doing. We're building a tower that reaches up into heaven. Do you think God will be happy about this?" His friend replied, "Don't be silly. Of course he'll be happy. This is a great accomplishment, and God wants us to be happy too." Now, the man didn't really believe that God wanted them to be disobedient, but he didn't want to argue, so he stopped talking about it. But other people continued arguing about it. Some said God would be happy, while others said he would be mad. And as time went on, the arguments became louder and more people joined in. Soon, the whole city was arguing, and it was getting out of control. And that's when God came down from heaven to see what was going on. He saw the huge tower that reached up into the sky, and he heard the people arguing and boasting. And God asked, "Why are they arguing? Are they trying to reach heaven?" And when God heard their conversation, he was not happy. So he decided to punish them. He chose to confuse their language so that they wouldn't be able to understand each other anymore. Suddenly, the people heard God's voice booming over the city. "If you can reach heaven, I can confuse your language." And just like that, everything changed. People no longer understood each other. Everyone was scared. They didn't know what to do or what to say. People started yelling and pointing at each other. Nobody knew what anybody else was saying anymore. The people stopped working and started running around in circles, confused and scared. Some people tried to hide, but there was nowhere to go. The whole city was in chaos. Then the people started blaming each other. They pointed their fingers and shouted things that nobody could understand. It sounded like they were cursing each other, throwing accusations. They were all angry. There was no more singing, no more celebration. There was only fear and confusion. And as the sun began to set, people started running away from the city. They ran into the mountains and valleys all over the desert land. They were scared to be alone, but they couldn't stay in the city. They had to leave. The tower was supposed to make them famous forever, but instead it was a reminder of their foolishness. Many people never returned to Shinar. They traveled to far-off lands where nobody understood their language. They settled down in new places and started new lives. And over time, their descendants spread out across the whole earth. As the centuries passed, people forgot about the tower that reached into the sky. Only a few stones and broken bricks remained, half-built in the desert. Nobody lived in the city of Shinar anymore, and nobody knew what happened there. Many years later, someone found the ruins of the tower. He was an explorer who had been searching for ancient ruins. He was walking through the desert, looking for something interesting, when he saw the stones and bricks half buried in the sand. As he explored the area, he found pieces of pottery and tools that had been used many years ago. He also found clay tablets with writing on them, but the writing was in a language that nobody understood anymore. The explorer realized that these ruins were very old. They were from before the time of Abraham, when people spoke the same language all over the world. He also realized that these ruins were from the city of Shinar, the place where people built a tower that reached up into the sky. The explorer was amazed. He couldn't believe that such a huge tower had once stood here. He could only imagine how tall it was, and how it must have looked like when it reflected the light of the sun and moon. The explorer took some notes and made a sketch of the tower. He showed it to the people in the nearby village, but they didn't know anything about it. They had never heard of the tower or the city of Shinar. The explorer was sad. He wished that he could have seen the tower when it was still standing. He wished that he could have talked to the people who built it and asked them why they did it. As the sun began to set, the explorer walked away from the ruins. He left the city of Shinar behind him and continued exploring the desert. He never forgot about the tower that reached up into the sky, and he never found another ruin that was as amazing. Every culture has its own stories about the beginning of the world. These stories usually explain where we came from, why we are here, and what we should do. The story of the Tower of Babel is a very old story. It comes from a book called Genesis, which is part of the Bible. The story tells us that all the people in the world spoke the same language a long time ago, but God confused their languages so that they couldn't understand each other anymore. That's why we have different languages today. Some people believe that the Tower of Babel actually existed. They think that it was a real event that happened a long time ago. Other people believe that it's just a story that teaches us a lesson. No matter what we believe, the story of the Tower of Babel is an important part of human history. It reminds us that we are all connected and that we should be careful when we try to be too powerful. When we try to do something big, like building a tower that reaches into the sky, we have to be careful that we don't cause problems for ourselves or for other people. Sometimes our plans might seem good at first, but they can end up causing a lot of confusion and pain. When we don't understand each other, it can be easy to blame each other and cause even more pain. The story of the Tower of Babel teaches us to be humble and to respect other people. Even if we think we're really smart or powerful, we should remember that we're all human and that we need to work together to make the world a better place. If we remember this lesson, we can avoid the mistakes of the past and build a better future for everyone. You can help me make videos like this one. Go to a website to learn how you can donate. Thank you for watching. See you next time.